Okay, class, in the previous podcast, I had talked about the creation of San Juan Bautista, the mother mission of Texas, the gateway into Texas, which was created around 1700. And in these next podcasts, I want to talk about the Spanish coming back up into Texas after the disastrous experience in the 1690s. So San Juan Bautista, let me remind you, very, very important. Think of it as infrastructure, as the Spanish are putting resources into the area around the Rio Grande, and uh, they're building up an infrastructure that will allow for the creation of the settlement of Texas. And the first step was the building of that Mission Presidio complex, San Juan Bautista, just south of the Rio Grande. And then what happens? How do the Spanish finally start focusing on Texas? Well, it's kind of a weird story. Uh, Father Hidalgo, he would always had been disappointed. He was the Franciscan priest that had come up in the 1690s to try to create a Spanish settlement with the Cadoans. He'd always regretted the failure of that, and he always wanted to come back up into what's now Eastern Texas and try again with the Cadoans. And he's really quite religious. He's got a real fervor to convert the Caddoan to Roman Catholicism. This is basically his job, but I think it was more than his job. I think it was his calling. He wanted to take this native group and make them Christian, make them Roman Catholic. And of course, the other thing, and one of the reasons he's successful, is the Spanish need kind of a pair of eyes, you might say, on the border with Louisiana. The Spanish are always suspicious of the French. And so Saint Denis does something kind of funky. He writes a letter uh, to the governor of French Louisiana, and he suggests that the French and the Spanish work together to convert the Caddoan people. And this was pretty close to treason. Uh, the fact that Hidalgo communicated with the governor of French Louisiana, by the way, that governor's name was Cadillac, and that's how we get the word Cadillac for fancy cars. And so what happens is the governor of French Louisiana goes, this is interesting. I get this letter from this priest, and he's got this proposal that the Spanish and the French work together to convert the Caddoan. And what Cadillac decides to do is he decides to send a representative uh, of the French government from Louisiana to San Juan Bautista to talk to the officials there. And so that's what he does. And the person that he sends to San Juan Bautista is a Frenchman by the name of Saint Denis. And this is in your outline. Uh, and again, this is why it's important to keep looking at the outline, because I know it can be kind of confusing, all these names, and you're totally unfamiliar with this. So I hope you have some familiarity with the outline. Of course, you might be driving while you listen to this. Don't have a wreck. But yeah, do take a look at the outline either before or after you listen to this podcast. So what you have is this guy, Saint Denis, just shows up, this Frenchman from Louisiana. He just shows up out of the blue in about 1710, 1711 at San Juan Bautista. And he comes in peace. He comes and he's answering Hidalgo's letter, and he comes to talk to the Spanish officials, and he's wondering, well, are you willing to work with us, the French, to convert the Caddoan? And we don't know what Hidalgo's motive for writing the original letter to Cadillac was. There's some speculation that what Father Hidalgo wanted to do he wanted to prod the Spanish. He knew the Spanish always paid attention to Texas when they thought they were going to lose Texas. And so he may have been trying to prod the Spanish government. But the appearance of San Denis at San Juan Bautista certainly got the attention of Spanish officials. And so what happens is San Denis, the Spanish have San Denis kind of cool his heels at San Juan Bautista, and the Spanish kind of huddle, and they decide, okay, let's try to reestablish a Spanish presence in what's now East Texas, in the border between Spanish Texas and French Louisiana. And so that's really the key point here without getting too much into the weeds. In the early 1710s, the Spanish decide, okay, let's try again. Let's try to come up into Caddoan territory. Maybe it will work better this time. Maybe we'll be smarter. We won't be as offensive. And let's try to create a presence in eastern Texas on the border with French Louisiana. And so that's why you have, beginning in 1716 or so, and you know what? You don't have to know these exact dates. I'll let you know a date you do have to know in a second. But it's basically the period after, between 1710 and 1718. The Spanish mount a new expedition into their territory in what's now Texas. And the difference is the Spanish don't have to come into Texas all the way from Mexico City now. The Spanish can come into Texas from San Juan Bautista because, like I say, there's an infrastructure that's been created. So there's a big expedition that's mounted from San Juan Bautista. It goes up into San Antonio, and on the way to East Texas, this mission, and it's made up of soldiers and it's made up of priests, more soldiers than priests. They found San Antonio, the Mission Valero in San Antonio, and also a small presidio in San Antonio. Now, one of the things I want you to realize is there could be decades between the founding of a mission and the building of a mission. I mean, 20, 30 years, 40 years in some cases. So just because Mission Valero was founded in 1718, it didn't appear overnight. It took decades to build. And Mission Valero is what we call the Alamo today. So that's the context of the founding of what today is San Antonio. And the reason it was founded where it was is that San Antonio is in an area that has tremendous amounts of water because San Antonio sits on the Edwards Aquifer. Now, the Edwards Aquifer is in kind of a danger in 2023 because of the growth of San Antonio. And there are not nearly as many springs in the San Antonio area as there were in the 1710s. But this area was basically an oasis. There was water here. And so the Spanish thought it might be a good place for a settlement. The other aspect of why the Spanish created a mission in what becomes San Antonio, mission, a presidio, and a small villa, a small city, is that San Antonio is halfway between San Juan Bautista and East Texas. So when you think of San Antonio, think of Spanish infrastructure again, as the Spanish tried to build their presence in Texas, as they need to create a presence, especially in East Texas, to keep an eye on the French. And so that's why San Antonio is founded where it is. And that's the larger context of the founding of San Antonio. And so these missions, they don't stop in San Antonio, the Spanish. They found Mission Valero, which today we call the Alamo. They continued on into East Texas, the East Texas area, and the Spanish moved back into the Caddoan country, and they reestablished a series of missions on the border between Texas and Louisiana, Spanish Texas and French Louisiana. So, long story short, by 1720, the Spanish are back in Texas. And more importantly for us, the Spanish have created what becomes San Antonio. They've created the first mission, Mission Valero, which becomes the Alamo. And of course, Valero is an energy company that many of us drive by every day. I guess it depends on how you get to UTSA. The Valero Energy Company is named after that first mission that the Spanish created in 1718. So that's the big picture I want you to take from this. Because of Hidalgo's machinations, by 1720, you have San Antonio created in 1718. That's a date I'll test you on. And you have a kind of a precarious Spanish settlement in Texas.